Hello, and welcome to Ashes of Hemlock. I'm Danielle, your host. Today, we are diving into a haunting, decades old cold case from New England. A story of a young mother whose life was brutally cut short and her 4-year-old daughter who vanished without a trace into the autumn chill. It is a case of deep betrayal, institutional silence, and a sister's desperate, lifelong quest for the truth. Let's go back to October 24th, 1997. Around 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the Parkville neighborhood of Hartford, Connecticut, 21-year-old Rosa Delgado walked out of her home, leaving her newborn 5-month-old daughter, Alicia, safe in the care of her sister. Carrying only $10, just enough for diapers and milk, she bundled up her 4-year-old daughter, Rosa Marie, affectionately known as Rosita, and headed out into the cool evening to walk to JJ's Groceries on Madison Avenue. While walking, a neighbor spotted them on a street corner talking to a man named Julio J. Camacho. Julio wasn't just some ex-boyfriend. He was Rosita's biological father, and he also happened to be an active-duty Hartford police officer. After their brief conversation, Rosa and Rosita continued to the grocery store, where the owner watched them complete their purchases and step back out into the night. That departure would be the very last time anyone ever saw Rosita alive. For nearly a month, there was only silence. The Hartford Police Department didn't publicize the disappearances immediately, a delay that Rosa's family would later call a cover-up to protect one of their own officers. But in November of 1997, two duck hunters in western New Jersey's Columbia Lake made a horrifying discovery. They spotted a female torso floating in 3 feet of water. Columbia Lake is 180 miles away from Hartford, but it is easily accessible from the interstate, making it a notorious dumping ground for out-of-state killers looking to sever their ties to a crime. Whoever did this knew exactly how to delay identification. The victim's head and hands had been cut off to erase dental records and fingerprints. Lacking any immediate way to identify her, local authorities called her the Lady of the Lake. It would take 2 years of painful waiting. But in 1999, DNA testing finally gave the Lady of the Lake her name, Rosa Delgado. But what about 4-year-old Rosita? Authorities from both New Jersey and Connecticut dragged and searched Columbia Lake extensively, but they found absolutely nothing. No clothes, no trace of the little girl. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Naturally, investigators focused on Julio Camacho. And when they started digging into the personal life of this police officer, what they found was deeply unsettling. Julio was drowning in child support debt, paying for multiple children from past relationships while supporting his current wife's kids. In November 1997, while his daughter Rosita and her mother were actively missing, Julio petitioned a court to cancel his child support obligations for Rosita, demanding a paternity test. Crucially, he never mentioned to the presiding judge that the mother and child had completely vanished. Furthermore, while Julio had regularly called and visited Rosa's family before, the moment they disappeared, he went completely silent, never once reaching out to ask if they had heard from them. When investigators searched Julio's car and home, they realized they were dealing with someone who knew exactly how to clean a crime scene. The fabric lining of his car's trunk had been entirely removed, and the bottom of the trunk had been sanded down to the bare metal. Inside his house, detectives found 2 sawed-off shotguns, a handmade hatchet, a wire garrote, and instructional books on serial killers that detailed how to dismember and successfully hide human remains. Every single item was meticulously clean, completely free of blood. And police later discovered that Julio had asked his brother to provide a false alibi for the night of the disappearance. Yet, because of the lack of direct forensic evidence connecting him to the scene, Julio Camacho was never charged with Rosa Delgado's murder or Rosita's disappearance. But Julio's dark double life was about to catch up with him. In October 1998, a federal task force began investigating systemic corruption and misconduct within the Hartford Police Department. It turned out Julio was one of several officers committing horrific crimes in uniform. Multiple women stepped forward, alleging that Julio had used his police cruiser, his uniform, and his handcuffs to abduct and rape them while on duty. By 2001, faced with overwhelming accusations, Julio pleaded guilty to 2 counts of on-duty sexual assault and was sentenced to prison. He has since been released and relocated to Virginia. It is now 2026. Rosita would be 32 years old today. Her younger sister, Alicia Rivera Delgado, who was only a newborn left in her crib that October night, has spent her entire life searching for her big sister. Alicia has described a frustrating culture of silence within her own family, who refuse to talk about what happened to her mother and sister. But there is still hope. The FBI's New Haven field office and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are actively working this cold case. In April of 2026, the FBI officially reinstated a $50,000 reward for any information leading to the recovery of Rosita or the arrest of those responsible. They've also released an age-progressed image showing what Rosita might look like as an adult. Investigators are holding on to two main theories. The first is a heartbreaking double homicide, that Rosita was killed shortly after her mother to eliminate her as a witness, and her remains were hidden separately. But the FBI is also keeping a second theory open, the Puerto Rico survival theory. Because Rosita spoke mostly Spanish in 1997, some investigators believe she may have been taken to Puerto Rico and raised under an assumed identity, completely unaware of her true origins or the tragedy that befell her mother. If she is out there, she has a sister who is desperate to find her. If you know anything, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem, please speak up. You can contact the Hartford Police Department's anonymous tip line at 8607228477. Or you can call the FBI's New Haven field office at 203-777-6311. Let's bring Rosita home. Thank you for listening to Ashes of Hemlock. I'm Danielle. Join us next time as we continue to shine a light into the darkest corners of unsolved history. Until then, keep asking questions and stay safe.